Well, welcome to Being Happy Anyway with Glenn. Today we have a special episode for therapists on Zoom drinking water with Joanne. And we're going to talk a little bit about depression today. And Joanne has brought in 3 quotes that we're going to look at that we think are good tools to understanding depression and even understanding a little bit maybe how to manage depression or not, be managed by depression. Joanne, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Thank you, Glenn. Hi, I'm Joanne, and I am currently a therapist for a nonprofit. I work with communities and schools and go out and meet individuals within those communities and schools and provide services to them, therapeutic services to them. I'm still currently studying to get my license, and
Well, I'm glad that you're in the field, and I'm happy for all the good work that you do with students of different ages. Okay, so here is our first slide. Would you like to read it?
Sure. This quote says, "Depression is a prison where you are both the suffering prisoner and the cruel jailer." And that's by Dorothy Rowe.
Why did you choose that quote?
I thought this was so perfect for depression because, it's depression is almost it's a mindset, right? It's a feeling in your mind, and you're kind of convincing yourself that maybe you're not good enough, or people don't like you, or you don't have enough worth to be out there in the world. So you can kind of be the one to jail yourself and isolate and pull back. This also reminds me of Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. She talks a lot about, mostly herself living as a mother for a long time and not really ever having a life of her own, and not kind of realizing eventually that she was only living for her kids and nobody else, and not doing anything for herself. And there is this quote about it, though, where she says, "I was inside this whole time, but the door was always open." And that's right, the door is always open, and we can go and ask for help, and we can say how we feel. But I think when you're in that mindset, people they don't know the door is open.
So Joanne, a couple of things that I heard you saying. One was earlier on in the conversation when I first flipped to this quote, there was some self-worth issues that tend to be involved in depression, right? Somehow I'm unworthy or I'm not good enough. So I hear that from you, and I also hear from you maybe a little bit of powerlessness. There's a door there that could be open, but maybe I talk myself out of it, or I don't realize that I have some options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think, depression is something that it kind of warps your perception of things, and makes you believe things that are not true, which we'll talk about later in one of our other quotes. But it lies a lot to the person with it, and they're not aware of their ability to walk out that door if it's open.
I love that. And I know the quote you're talking about, that we're going to show in a bit, but I think it really is important even for us to say that now, that depression does lie, depression does warp, and it makes us believe things that aren't true. We need to be careful what we believe, don't we? Our thoughts are so powerful. If I think that I'm worthless, and I think that things are never going to get better, there's a possibility I may talk myself into that, isn't there?
Right. And I think that's actually perfect for our next quote, if you want to pull that one up. So many people have that feeling without even realizing it, of powerless or not being enough. that's constantly playing out in their day-to-day life, and they're not even aware. And I think that's why this is so great. If you want to go ahead and read it.
Sure. I say sorry a lot, mostly because I feel like everything is my fault.
Do you ever feel like that, Glenn? Or have you ever noticed that?
Yes, I have caught myself doing that sometimes in negative times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if I do something wrong, I want to take responsibility for it. But many times in depression, as we feel we're worthless, we feel that we're the cause of everything bad. Maybe our friends are visiting us in Southern California and it's a rainy day and we were going to go to Disneyland, and we say, I'm sorry that it's raining and I'm sorry you can't go, but I'm saying it as if I caused it to rain, right? Instead of, oh man, what a bummer. Well, the good thing is the lines will be short at Disneyland. Are you still down to go?
Right.
Because
Right.
I certainly can't control the weather, and I can't control the economy, and I can't control how other people behave.
Right. And that's something to remember in those times too, is what can we control and what can we not control. And I think for so many people, it's easy to default to, I'm sorry. I find myself saying it, somebody will bump into me and I will say, I'm sorry. And I'm like, why did I do that? The Midwest thing in me, though. People say that all the time about Midwesterners. But yeah, that automatic, like, oh, I must be wrong, that that most people miss when they're feeling this way. And I had someone recently mention that they had started changing I'm sorry for thank you. So instead of like, I'm sorry I was late, thank you for waiting for me, is just such a more, it's a more empowering thing on the person. And I just thought that change in language was so interesting.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that very much. And then we're, that gratitude, we're thanking them for waiting for us, because we couldn't control that there was an accident on the 605.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Or if it's raining, nobody can drive in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just I'm trying to think of another example, like if I'm sorry I messed this up, like, thank you for teaching me, or thank you for taking the time to work through this with me. I just thought that was so powerful, because sorry just has this intention of, I've already done something wrong,
And I've ruined it, and there's no hope.
There's no hope.
We're just, thank you for teaching me. Hey, we're going to get there. We're learning something. We're growing.
Right.
There's more possibility, a little more hope.
Exactly. Yeah, hope. I think we could take a look at the next quote too. It's a lot about, I think hope applies to this as well. This one says, depression lies. It tells you you've always felt this way and you always will, but you haven't and you won't. And that's by Halley Cornell. And this is, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the perception, the way that your view is warped when you're feeling symptoms of depression. And it lies to you, right? I'm always going to feel this way. I'm never going to get out of this. It's always these like catastrophizing situations, right? Always the worst possible thing. When really every feeling we have is temporary. We've never stayed in a feeling forever.
Even happiness, right, Joanne?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, happiness doesn't last forever, but here we are, we go back and forth with it. It's just kind of the cycle of life, and it ebbs and flows.
I think it's interesting too in this quote that it says, one of the lies is that we've always felt that way. I think when we get in those depressive states, it tends to mute some of the happy memories that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it says you haven't always felt this way and you won't. We can remember that even though today is a bad day, or this moment or this week is rough for me, there have been better times before. And I think when we remember that there's been better times before, it gives us some hope that there'll probably be some better days or better moments of days ahead. I think, you know, as I work with clients with depression and I monitor my own depression, one thing I like to remember is that even in a bad day or a bad time, if we can just have some good moments during that day, that can help. You mentioned earlier the pandemic that we're living in, because we're recording this in August 2020 in the middle of COVID-19. And yeah, we can be bummed that work is online and our family reunion is canceled and I can't go to a Dodger game. But I can say, boy, I sure like this song that was just released and I'm going to sing along to this song. Or I'm going to order Postmates and I'm going to get those fish tacos and they're so delicious. I wish I could eat it off the hook. But you know what? I do enjoy this taco here. So I can acknowledge that I'm feeling a little bit sad, but I can maybe find a little bit of joy in the limited situation that I'm in, you know, and that's one of the reasons for the title of this YouTube channel and podcast, Being Happy Anyway, you know, being happy in spite of the fact that I have to deal with depression, or the fact that I'm in a pandemic, or the fact that I got fired from a job, or whatever that situation is.
The pandemic, I think, has caused a lot of people to feel like this is going to go on forever and, you know, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. But, and that was true at the beginning for a little bit. But it's also, I think, what I have done to kind of help myself during this is just, I'm realizing that there are things out there that I have never done that are open, like flower shops. And now I have plants in my apartment because, you know, like I've just never thought about going to it was actually the LA flower market. I never thought about doing that.
Great prices too.
Right. I mean, but we're in a, you know, a time where people are not going out and it's less chaotic to go over there. I don't have to run around like my normal Saturday routine, and, you know, I can spend my time finding other hobbies that make me happy, which I think is really important throughout this time, because everybody's favorite things, I think, have been taken away from them.
Right. And so what you did was you found a new one, something you normally didn't have time to do. And you said, well, what can I do? Well, I can go to the LA Flower Mart and buy some wholesale flowers for a great price with a wonderful selection. Joanne, I'm wondering if maybe you and I can do another episode sometime following up on this one. Today we sort of defined depression a little bit, and I wonder if maybe in the future we can share with our listeners and viewers some tools that maybe they can use to manage depression. What would you think about that?
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
And now we've reached the part of the episode where we do Sing Along with Victor.
Aloha, friends.
Aloha.
Victor is my name. Pleasure to see all of you. And I want to share with you some music that I know will be very helpful to you. This song is called Three Little Birds. It was sung by the great reggae artist Bob Marley. Now, this is a Hawaiian instrument, so it'll have a little bit of Hawaiian flavor here. Okay. But I hope as you listen to this song that you will realize a few things. I know sometimes we feel stress and anxiety, but this is a song that reminds me about the beauty of the earth. It talks about the birds, and it talks about the birds singing. One time I was singing this song, I was sitting in the park playing, and guess what I heard? The birds were singing. And then I stopped and they were still singing. And I played again and they were still singing. So again, learn to enjoy the simple things of the earth. And that is what I learned from 3 little birds. All right, here we go. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Sing it, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds, each by the doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. This is my message to you. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Sing it, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Sing it, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be